You are mistaken in thinking so, returned Franz calmly. But you merely fall into the same error which leads so many of our countrymen to commit the most egregious blunders. I mean that of judging the habits and customs of Italy and Spain by our Parisian notions. Believe me, nothing is more fallacious than to form any estimate of the degree of intimacy you may suppose existing among persons by the familiar terms they seem upon. There is a similarity of feeling at this instant between ourselves and the Countess. Nothing more. Is there indeed, my good fellow? Pray tell me, is it sympathy of the heart? No, of taste, continued Franz gravely. And in what manner has this congeniality of mind been evinced? By the Countess's visiting the Colosseum, as we did last night by moonlight, and nearly alone. And you were with her then? I was. And what did you say to her? Oh, we talked of the illustrious dead, of whom that magnificent ruin is a glorious monument. Upon my word, cried Albert, you must have been a very entertaining companion alone, or all but alone, with a beautiful woman in such a place of sentiment as the Colosseum, and yet find nothing better to talk about than the dead. All I can say is, if I ever get such a chance, the living shall be my theme, and you will probably find your theme ill-chosen. But, said Albert, breaking in upon his discourse, never mind the past. Let us only remember the present. Are you not going to keep your promise of introducing me to the fair subject of our remarks? Certainly, directly the curtain falls on the stage. What a confounded long time this first act lasts. I believe, on my soul, that they never mean to finish it. Oh yes, they will. Only listen to that charming finale. How exquisitely Coselli sings his part. But what an awkward, inelegant fellow he is. Well then, what do you say to La Specchia? Did you ever see anything more perfect than her acting? Why, you know, my dear fellow, when one has been accustomed to Malibran and Sontag, such singers as these don't make the same impression on you they perhaps do on others. Best friends hanging out at the opera. Franz and Albert, they're best friends hanging out at the opera. You know what? Sometimes I just have a song in my heart, and gotta put words to it. This is one of those moments I can't tell if my predilections are making it slightly humorous, if I'm interpreting Dumas' words a little too springily, to invent a word here. You know, like, he loves this banter, and there's a push and pull going on between Albert and Franz here that I can't help but find to be with a little bit of levity to it, especially after last couple chapters. I mean, we're filling out a different tone here. So I read it as maybe not haha funny, but just like meant to be a bit more playful. I also want to point out the hypocrisy of Albert here, where he's kind of taken the Italian actors to task, and he's making the point that, you know, once you're accustomed to the French opera, nothing else quite compares. And yet he's doing the same stuff here as all of the Italian spectators are. He's not paying attention to the stage. He's obsessed with who else is around, who's making appearances. He is trying to get Franz to hook him up with this countess. Albert also dropping the names of two real-life actresses. Maria Malibran, she was a famous opera singer of the Romantic era, apparently celebrated for her dramatic intensity and extraordinary vocal range. And Henriette Sontag, who was a German soprano who performed all across Europe and had one of the most admired voices of her generation. To me, this is more evidence of what we talked about the other day, of Dumas really trying to steep readers in the modern world. I think this book has kind of been operating in a mythological register for a good chunk of it. If we think of like everything up to, let's go as far as saying Dante helping Morel. You can really map the beats of that onto mythological stories very easily. And I'm not saying like gods and demigods and mortals and stuff like that, but like just the structure of what a myth is, how a heroic character becomes a heroic character. I'm not necessarily calling Dante heroic. I'm just kind of using that as a generalization, you know, as like an archetype. You have a person put through a trial, a labor of sorts, and come out the other side more prosperous for it, seeking vengeance, going through a transformation being such a pivotal part of so many early myths. That's what Ovid's whole friggin' deal was. That's why he wrote Metamorphoses, which means transformations. So now we're entering in a slightly different phase where, I don't think that 8-year time gap was unintentional. I mean, it was intentional, obviously. He's writing a book and making choices. But, when you're writing that mythological part, setting it in the past really helps to give you more allowance to play with things. But now we're setting it in the present, and this is making it not even like historical fiction anymore. This is like modern fiction. Everything leading up to this would have been historical fiction, placing Dante among the 100 Days and Napoleonic Wars and King Louis, the Bourbon Restoration, etc. This is now this is happening as readers are experiencing it. Countess G might still be alive when this book is written. I'd be curious. I don't know that there's any evidence of this, how you would chart this even, but when we talked about the serialization of these stories and how authors could pivot and respond more directly to audience feedback, whether or not this was an intention on Dumas' part to hook into, over the course of the year of telling the story, does it become more popular to tell modern stories rather than historical stories? And so he's like, you know what? We're going to change the story. We're going to do an 8-year cut. We're going to bring it into modern day. We're going to bring it into high society. We're going to drop names that people might know, but with a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Because I think that would have excited a lot of readers. A very strained metaphor is if you're between seasons of a TV show and White Lotus, and there's all these news headlines of casting updates. Oh, you'll never guess who joined season 4 of White Lotus. This creates water cooler talk. People, get to speculating. They get to the gossipy stuff, which is precisely what he's tapping into here. I wonder if that's true. I don't know. I don't have any evidence of that, but I would like to know. Okay, that's all I've got for today. Join me here tomorrow for a little bit more of 34. Until then, okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.